Hey guys, you've heard of the Young Turks podcast because you're listening to it right now. But make sure that you subscribe and give it a 5-star rating if you like it. Thank you for listening. Welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk, Uygur, and Kasparian with you guys. Normally I'm excited overall, and so obviously we got issues with the primaries, but so hard to get excited over that. Keeping it real, but really now the coronavirus, massive panic.
Yes.
And the disease itself is deeply problematic. Yes, the business effects are also deeply problematic, but now I think the panic is the third leg of the problems, and so we've got all three hitting us at once.
Definitely, and look, here's the thing though. Luckily, we had our president, our lovely, competent president, address the public yesterday to calm our nerves and to ease some of the pain that people have been feeling in the stock market. No, he did address the public and it went terribly wrong. He was terribly wrong. His solution to this pandemic is terribly wrong. And so why don't we get right into that story?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so. Let's do it.
We will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days.
All right, so that's Donald Trump announcing drastic measures that in his mind would combat the spread of coronavirus or COVID-19. But in typical Trump-like fashion, his solutions make no sense because he has decided to implement a travel ban a little too late in the game. In fact, we already have the virus here in the United States. It's already spreading in the United States. It's already causing panic in the United States. And he has decided to go in a direction that he should have been in earlier on. So let me give you more of what he had to say and then we'll break it down.
Taking early, intense action, we have seen dramatically fewer cases of the virus in the United States than are now present in Europe. The European Union failed to take the same precautions and restrict travel from China and other hotspots. As a result, a large number of new clusters in the United States were seeded by travelers from Europe. After consulting with our top government health professionals, I have decided to take several strong but necessary actions to protect the health and well-being of all Americans. To keep new cases from entering our shores, we will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days. The new rules will go into effect Friday at midnight. These restrictions will be adjusted subject to conditions on the ground. There will be exemptions for Americans who have undergone appropriate screenings, and these prohibitions will not only apply to the tremendous amount of trade and cargo, but various other things as we get approval. Anything coming from Europe to the United States is what we are discussing. These restrictions will also not apply to the United Kingdom.
Okay, so there is 1,000 problems there already. First of all, it did not apply to trade and cargo. And so immediately after the speech, the White House had to put out an oops.
Immediately after.
You're trying to ease people's concerns. The one way that you do that is by showing competence. Don't worry, we got this. Secondly, doing a travel ban on Europe is way too late. So we'll talk more about that in a second. But what Trump is trying to do is more marketing because that's the only thing he knows. So we'll start the xenophobia. So they started calling it the Chinese coronavirus earlier on Tucker Carlson's show, and then that virus spread to the rest of Fox News, and then it spread to Trump, and now they're saying, oh, it's the dirty Europeans too. And
in the context of that speech, he referred to it as a foreign virus because it's thought to be originated in China. And so yes, of course, I mean, look, these types of emergencies, these types of pandemics, disasters are usually exploited by bad actors in politics for their own political reasons. But we can't get distracted by that, and we can't allow that to be the heart of the conversation, and we can't allow it to victimize people simply because of their ethnicity or their race or where they came from. The issues that we're having in the United States right now should be squarely blamed on Donald Trump and his inability to act competently when we have this type of pandemic.
Yeah, so I want people to understand that normally what Trump does is he lies his way out of a problem. So he'll say, oh, no, everything is, you name it, any problem that he has. No, our response to the hurricanes was fantastic. It was the best response you've ever seen. And then Fox News will help him lie, and then half the country will believe him. And then you're not down in Puerto Rico, so you don't really know how the response was. And he'll get to get away with that kind of marketing. But when you have a disease that is indiscriminate, it doesn't just pick out Democrats, it doesn't just pick out poor or middle class people, it is indiscriminate. Tom Hanks has it now, Rita Wilson has it, a member of the Utah Jazz has it. So millionaires have it, poor people have it, everybody has it. You can't lie your way out of that. Marketing is not going to help you. Say, oh yeah, the Chinese did it. Oh, we are gonna ban the Europeans. Doesn't help you with the disease at all. Alternative facts do not cure diseases. So you need real facts, you need real medicine, real science. So that gets to the heart of this thing. When he says, we have less cases. No.
That's not true, yeah.
We have less testing because we're incompetent in this United States government right now. So a couple of days ago, we had done 2,000 tests out of 330 million people. To give you context, South Korea had done 100,000 tests. Now we've done about 3,000 to 4,000 tests. South Korea has done 150,000 tests. Now, when you do 150,000 tests, you know what you find out? You find out that more people have it than you realize because you tested them. When you've only tested a couple thousand people, going around saying, oh, not that many people tested positive. Yeah, because you didn't test them. So when the tests come in, and then we find out the real enormity of the problem here as it is across the world, oh boy, another wave of panic is gonna hit.
All right, so there's a story that just broke by the Daily Beast. I wanted to make sure that you guys were aware of it. So apparently there's complete and utter chaos within the Trump administration over Trump's botched speech and all of the misinformation that he shared in that speech. So according to the Daily Beast, Trump administration officials are furious at the boss for botching the COVID-19 speech. One of them was quoted as saying, we're wasting time playing mop up, and it goes without saying that we aren't allowed to admit that any of it is the fault of the president. So even within the administration, they're acknowledging the fact that they are ill prepared, that Donald Trump has been completely incompetent in the handling of the spread of this virus, and they can't publicly speak out because we all know what Donald Trump is like if you criticize him, even if it's constructive criticism. But also understand that while he is banning travel from the European Union specifically, fact of the matter is he's not banning travel from the countries that have his resorts, right?
Yes,
so for instance, he mentioned the United Kingdom and how the United Kingdom is exempt from this travel ban. Well, the United Kingdom has its own confirmed cases of coronavirus. So what exactly is fueling his decision to ban travel from Europe, but not from the UK? Also, the Department of Homeland Security clarified that the new order would not bar all travelers from Europe, just foreign nationals traveling from Europe to the United States. The order also doesn't prohibit the travel of legal permanent residents and the immediate family members of United States citizens. That's an important clarification because Americans currently in Europe, for whatever reason, whether it's tourist reasons or business reasons, were panicking and they didn't know what this meant for them.
Yeah.
And so again, Donald Trump comes out, and understand, he's not speaking off the cuff here. He's trying to be serious and he's reading from a teleprompter, clearly. And he still can't get it right. So this was a prepared speech full of misinformation.
So that's the second big mistake. First one was saying trade and cargo. Markets immediately collapsed overnight because there's future markets that are open at night. And you see the graph go like this as soon as he says trade and cargo are banned from Europe. Then they have to immediately go, no, sorry, trade and cargo are not banned. Second thing is, people started panicking because their kids are in Europe, their family members are in Europe, and he did not clarify that Americans could come back. And then people started buying incredibly expensive tickets to try to get out immediately before the ban came in. So then the second thing they had to clarify was like, sorry, Americans can come back in, okay? And then he said, don't worry, we're gonna test everyone, all the Americans that are coming back in. We don't have any tests because the idiots didn't order the tests for months ago. So that's not true, they're not gonna get tested when they come back. We don't have enough test kits. So I'll get back to that because that's the most important part. And then what Anna mentioned, it's not just the UK. He's like, also Ireland will be exempted.
Right.
Why? There's a Trump resort in Ireland. For God's sake, like some of the European countries have very, very few cases of COVID-19. The UK actually has plenty of cases of COVID-19. So why ban the ones that don't have COVID-19 but not ban UK and Ireland? It's so obvious that the scientists came to him and said, all right, look, first probably Stephen Miller said, let's do xenophobia, let's blame the Europeans too. The scientists go, well, okay, I mean, there are cases, really bad cases in Italy, that part is true. And so if you wanna do all of Europe, and he goes, whoa, I guarantee this is what happened. No, not the UK and Ireland, because he's got resorts there. This is not time for personal corruption, right?
But he only looks out for himself, and we know that. And one portion of the Politico article on this matter like really stood out to me, because the reason why he did this address and the reason why he wanted to give the appearance of taking it seriously is because what is he thinking about the most right now? His reelection. Right? So Politico reported that Trump even made, one administration official suggested Trump could, quote, kiss a second term goodbye if he failed to strike a more serious tone about the coronavirus outbreak that has already infected several hundred Americans. So he's realizing, oh wait, so my tweets and my attempts to minimize the impact of this pandemic, not working. So I'm worried about re-election. Let me go ahead and put together this ridiculous speech and try to seem serious about it. But he's not serious about it clearly, and he's only thinking about his own self-interest. That's it.
So originally his staffers called it a hoax because they go to the same book of tricks. Let's lie about it, let's smear, let's do propaganda, let's do marketing. But again, you can't propaganda your way out of a disease. So now the most important mistake, and Ron Klain talks about this, he was in charge of the Ebola virus response under the Obama administration, former chief of staff to Biden and Obama. Ron Klain is as establishment as it gets. Now, normally I'd be opposed to that kind of thing, but the one thing establishment gets right in both the things that it does to oppress the middle class, etc., but also in situations like this, for good and for better and for worse, is that they are competent. That is what Donald Trump is not. So when they come to oppress you, they're really good at it, okay? But in a situation where you've got a pandemic, their competence is wonderful. So Ron Klain did do a very good job with the Ebola virus response. And so they talked to him, and he made terrific points here when New York Magazine interviewed him. He said, look, the first thing you should have done is, as soon as you saw a virus outbreak in China, which was 3 months ago, you should have put somebody in charge of it. They put Mike Pence in charge of it just a couple of weeks ago, barely, right? It should have been 3 months ago. So why does that matter? Because then you immediately do a checklist. What are the different things we have to do? You immediately pull in the top experts in the world on it. And the first thing they would have told you is, you need to be able to test people. We were so disastrously late in getting test kits here in America.
Right.
So we can't test anybody. So when you can't test people, you don't know who has it, and they're walking around. 14-day incubation period. They're all walking around spreading the disease because we can't test them and we don't know who has it. So there's 1,000 mistakes that were made because of their incompetence. But that's the central one, which now, and by the way, part of the reason Trump won't test himself and why he probably didn't order the test kits in the first place, other than total sheer incompetence, laziness, and he's a buffoon and doesn't know what he's doing, is also because he probably thought, I don't want the stock market to go down.
Right.
If people find out people have the disease, they'll worry. But you idiot, if we don't find out, now we're gonna find out later and it's gonna be way, way, way worse. And here we are. And even his beloved stock market is now crashing. It crashed worse than any day of 2008 earlier today. Then the Fed took action and it rose back up a little bit, but still down for the day, down for the week, bear market. He cares more about the health of the stock market than the health of the US citizens.
Of course. Yep.
And he botched that as well. So I told you going in, the number one problem with Donald Trump, I told you this 3 years ago, 4 years ago when he was running, is actually not how evil he is. That's a terrible problem. Not how corrupt he is, terrible problem. It's how incompetent he is. Because at some point, you need the president to be competent. And this is that point.
Well, I want to just quickly go over Europe's response to Trump's address, and then we'll take a break. So Donald Trump implemented a 30-day ban, and he conveniently exempted countries where 3 of his resorts are located. Now, the US government proclamation initiating the ban targets 26 countries that comprise a visa-free travel zone known as the Schengen area, okay? Now, the United Kingdom, which is home to Trump Turnberry and Trump International Golf Links, and Ireland, which is home to another Trump-branded hotel and golf course in Doonbeg, do not participate in this area. So Bulgaria, Croatia, and Romania are also part of the Schengen area. All 3 of the resorts are struggling financially. So it's important to mention that because he is much like the Muslim ban that he implemented. He's picking and choosing which countries will be negatively impacted by his travel ban here, right? Now, I want to be clear. Had he decided to ban travel from certain countries early on to slow down the spread of coronavirus, that would make sense. But at this point, it's too late, and travel bans make absolutely no sense at all. So there are now 460 confirmed coronavirus cases in the United Kingdom. Okay, that's one of the areas that Trump did not implement a travel ban on, including Nadine Dorries, the British government's own health minister in charge of patient safety. So you have high-level people in the UK who have already contracted this virus. Now, residents of the 26 Schengen countries are also free to live and work in the United Kingdom, meaning they could fly to the United States from a British airport as long as they hadn't spent time within the Schengen countries in the last 14 days.
Well, they can go to a Trump resort for a couple of weeks and then come here.
So I'm telling you all of this stuff because the way that it's impacting Europe makes no sense. The way that he implemented this travel ban makes no sense. And then you have the European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, saying that this was a unilateral decision that Donald Trump made and there was no notification to the European Union. She was quoted as saying, "The coronavirus is a global crisis not limited to any continent and it requires cooperation rather than unilateral action. The European Union disapproves of the fact that the United States' decision to impose a travel ban was taken unilaterally and without consultation." Because Trump doesn't care about consultation. He can't even sit through an intelligence briefing without losing attention. Like, he can't stand it. So why would you think he'd want to sit down and have a conversation with any other world leader to plan and be prepared for this pandemic?
So staffers say that Trump made this decision, quote, on the spot. And they say that not as like a damaging leak, but bragging. Because right-wingers think it's really great when folks make decisions from the gut. Oh, they're decisive, they're strong leaders. No, they're idiots who don't check with anyone else, who don't check with the experts, who don't check with allies, who don't tell them ahead of time, hey, by the way, I'm gonna do a travel ban on you. Since you're my allies, I'm giving you a heads up so you can prepare. I'm about to announce it. And that is a thoughtful, respectful way to do it. So we remain allies and we don't disrupt business, we don't disrupt trade, travel, etc. I'm gonna have to do this, but I'm letting you know. That's how a smart person, a competent person acts. Instead, he's like, oh yeah, I got it. We just banned people. I banned the Muslims before, I banned the Chinese because it's the Chinese coronavirus. Now I'm just gonna ban the Europeans. And a bunch of morons are in them like, bravo, strong leadership. Let's not tell anyone. And the other part of it is he's lazy. He's so lazy. All he does is play golf. Like Anna said, he can't sit through an intelligence briefing, partly because he has no intelligence and he has no patience. He's like a little child. And they have to, when they give him briefings, you guys know this, it has to be one page because he can't. The president cannot read past one page. You think he's gonna know what to do with COVID-19? This is what we were warning you about for years and years and years. And on that one page, they usually have to put his name all over the place so he pays attention, and they have to put in pictures. So we have an absolute moron as president. Now, I didn't tell you that because, we're gonna do political attacks against him. I told you that as a warning for something like this. When you have something really dangerous that requires competence, and you have a guy whose idea of being president is this: when do I play golf? Where are the pictures? Where's my name? Okay, what are they doing saying on cable news? What are they saying about me? What are they saying about me? I'm the most important person. I'm so good with words. I'm so good with diseases. He said earlier, a couple of days ago, that probably nobody knows about this disease more than he does. And he said that the doctors were amazed at how much he knew, and that maybe he should have been an expert on this disease instead of being president. See, that's the ravings of a lunatic mind. I didn't tell you 25th Amendment for all those years because I was trying to do a political attack against him. I told you because it's real. So he does this speech. He makes 3 massive mistakes in the speech because he didn't prepare because he's lazy. I got it. I'll do the homework on the way to school. I'll do it on the bus, okay? You know what kind of bus. Anyway, and then he gets out there and he's like, yeah, trade in cargo or bend. They're like, no, it's not. The Americans can't come back. Yes, they can. Okay, well, don't worry, all the treatment's gonna be free. The insurance companies afterwards are like, no, it's not. So they had to pull that one back. So why do you think the market's panicking? There's 2 reasons. One is because it's real. The NBA season's been suspended, the March Madness is canceled, you name it, right? It's real, there's a real disease. You can't wish it away, you can't lie it away, okay? The second reason is they have no confidence at all that we have leadership that can address the scope of this crisis, and they are correct. They know, and they've known all along, they didn't mind it when they were getting trillions of dollars in tax cuts, but they've known all along that there's a buffoon in charge. Now, when you need someone smart in charge, they go, sell everything, because there's no way in the world Trump can handle this. And here we are, that's exactly what's happening.
All right, well, when we come back from the break, we're going to give you some more information, just fact checks on the coronavirus. Unfortunately, Donald Trump's speech led to a lot of misinformation that we want to make sure that you guys have the real info on, and then later we'll give you the address that Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden gave in response to Trump.
Yeah, guys, one more thing. That third mistake that I briefly mentioned, I want to talk more about that when we come back, because that is so telling of what's wrong with the country even before the coronavirus came. But the coronavirus is highlighting. Same thing on the economy. We'll talk about both of those things. It's so important.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
We come back. right, back in the Young Turks. Let's go members first. Lots of quick comments. Thomas says address the public and it was disastrous. A planned written speech and he tanked it. That's because, again, he's lazy, didn't do the homework. Stephen Miller's an idiot who writes his speeches, and they thought they could just blame other people and be done with it.
Remember, he fires people who disagree with him. If you disagree with him even a little bit, he'll get rid of you. So anyone who might be even a little, competent, he gets rid of.
Yeah, actually, Pence is in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
Almost certainly will blame Pence for all of his own mistakes. So Nikki Haley, start warming up in the bullpen. Okay, not playing. Anyway, Pale Blue Dot says watching Trump try to read is just brutal. Vicky says Bernie's plan today for COVID-19 is amazing. We're gonna get to that in a little bit. Super Last Thing says anyone else noticed that he seemed out of breath 4 or 5 times in that speech?
And he was sniffling a lot.
I know, but I think that's speculation. Look, like his mental faculties is not speculation. He calls oranges all the time, and I've got 1,000 other examples. But he's always talking like that. Norway. So this thought of does he have it? Does he have it?
No, I think he's on drugs. That's what I think. I'm not. I don't know whether or not he has COVID-19. I know that he's been in close contact with people who do have it, who have tested positive for it. So that's concerning. But the nonstop cocaine sniffles, I don't know what's going on.
Okay, I don't know anything about that either. Peter Hamby says on YouTube Super Chat, like always, the GOP pandemic is blaming Democrats for COVID-19. Despite many bipartisan bills the House passed to prevent/control, Mitchie sneezes on. So we've got that coming up in a little bit as well. Also, Nancy Strickland, thank you all of you to use YouTube Super Chat because that helps the show. Nancy says, thank you for trying to get all the truth out there. We thank you because you make the show possible. By the way, tyt.com/go. There's so many great things we'd love to do. Nina Turner show, Josh Fox reached out to me with a great idea today. We don't have the money to do those things, but we would love to do those. tyt.com/go. To make some of that possible. Last one, we'll end on a positive note from Twitter. Heather Colvin says, hi guys, can you give us a shout out? I'm from Edinburgh, Scotland, and my kid got me a subscription for early Mother's Day. I would be super excited to get mentioned. I know we got other things to think about, i.e. the virus, but how cool is my kid? Heather, the correct answer is your kid is super cool. So thank you for being a member and thank you for watching. We appreciate it. And thank your kid for us.
All right, a quick update on our affiliate program. So for anyone who's watching, you're interested in maybe helping the show and maybe even helping yourself, we have an affiliate program that you can look into. Just go to tyt.com/win-win and you can help us sell memberships, which of course keep this company and this show sustainable. You make a 20% commission for every member you sign up. And that's pretty awesome. And more importantly, you help independent sources like ours. So far we have 826 TYT affiliates. We want to thank you guys from the bottom of our hearts. We really appreciate you and we love creating win-win situations. So we all win, tyt.com/win-win. All right, let's move on.
Can I travel? Can I not? That's what people are asking me because the president, I don't know from the president, can I travel or not?
I understand.
Are goods going to be able to come in from Europe? Are they not? Every producer was running around here scrambling and saying, did the president say we need to know? We can't report it. We don't know what to report. The president said this. We don't know.
That's Don Lemon, who was clearly confused about what was going on following Donald Trump's Oval Office address on the coronavirus. But Don Lemon wasn't the only one because there was a great deal of misinformation, a lack of clarity. And so he had the governor of Ohio, John Kasich, on to discuss this. And it got a little fiery to say the least. Let's take a look.
Whatever script he read was wrong because they've had to clarify it several times. And I just got to say, if the president came out to calm people's fears, he didn't do a good job of it because they've had to come back and clarify it several times. And this has been going on long enough for them to get it straight. We need straight, accurate information from this president and this administration, and we're not getting it. And I don't understand why you are tiptoeing around it. He came out, gave an address that usually that happens very rarely, and he doesn't get it right.
I'm going to tell you, first of all, he read it, and somebody that wrote this, look, I don't want to get into that. What was on today.
That's why you're here to talk about the president's address.
Can I finish now?
No, you can't, John, because we're here to talk about the president's. Wait, we're here. I don't want you to go on and deflect and talk about something else because we're here to talk about the president's address. And you said that someone else wrote it. He's the president. Even if someone else wrote it, it should be right.
So I don't blame Don Lemon for being as upset as he is, because again, there was so much misinformation in that speech that his own administration officials had to clean up immediately after and clarify what Trump was talking about. What does this travel ban mean? Will Americans stuck in Europe be able to come back to the United States? What does this mean for cargo? What does this mean for trade? Everyone was confused. And also there was misinformation about what would be covered when it comes to healthcare costs related to COVID-19. There was misinformation in his speech about that. But real quick, Cenk, I wanted to read you a few of the tweets coming from Tom Bossert. He was the former Homeland Security advisor under the Obama administration and briefly under the Trump administration as well. He said via Twitter, "There's little value to European travel restrictions. Poor use of time and energy. Earlier, yes. Now travel restrictions / screening are less useful. We have nearly as much disease here in the United States as the countries in Europe. We must focus on layered community mitigation measures now."
So what that means, if you're unfamiliar with community mitigation measures, is more and more people staying home. Now, look, that has begun. The NBA suspended the season. Baseball's suspended spring training. March Madness has been canceled. But how much are we going to do? Are people going to stop going to restaurants? Well, okay, that could be devastating to small business. It could be devastating to big business.
That's already happened, by the way. My husband is in the food service industry and he's been called off work. It's been a complete and utter disaster. People who work in that industry are being hit very hard. People in the gig economy are hit very hard.
Yeah, the only place that's doing well is the grocery stores. I went there blithely today, forgetting that we have COVID-19. I was on a phone call. There was lines like no one's business, and so, but everybody else is in a world of trouble in terms of business. That's true. We'll talk more about that in the post-game because we have some personal stories about that. But back to Kasich and Lemon for a second. So, to be fair to Kasich, Kasich is often tough on Trump, even though he's a Republican. Remember, he ran against Trump and was the last guy standing against Trump in the last primaries. And he's considered the reasonable, smart Republican. I say the, because just about the only one left in the country. So there, Lemon really didn't give him much of a chance to respond in that clip, to be honest. And so I can see why Kasich was frustrated. At the same time, Anna's right. Lemon's right to be frustrated because there's mistake after mistake. And Kasich says, I don't want to talk about it. I know why he doesn't want to talk about it, because he'd have to say, yes, the president is an idiot. It's his responsibility to know what's in the speech, to ask about what's in the speech, to make sure that it's correct. The buck stops here. That's what Harry Truman said about the Oval Office. And so Kasich's in a difficult position. I don't even know why he's on TV. He's a guy generally not predisposed to defending Trump. He's put in a position to defend Trump, and of course he can't do it. Nobody can defend Trump.
Well, I mean, he certainly attempted to. So while he might have a history of being more critical toward Trump compared to other Republicans, that was not the case in this interaction with Don Lemon. In fact, take a look at this next clip.
I think it was fine. That's what I think.
You think the wrong, you think inaccurate information that you have to come back and clarify 2 or 3 times, you think that's fine?
Look, I thought he did fine. That's what I thought. I thought he had the right tone, and he no longer played around with, we're going to blame Democrats or forget this stuff. I hope he's trying to move forward because he understands the seriousness of this situation. Now, the fact that they clarified, it isn't unusual in a speech for somebody to clarify something, okay? But I don't think that the tone he showed tonight takes away from some clarification. I think he set a serious tone. That's what I wanted out of him for a long time, and I think we got it.
So the bar is set extremely low because Donald Trump is such a child and he makes such a mockery of out of any serious situation that the standard now is, can he be serious about it? But I want to note something that's incredibly important that I don't think is getting enough media attention. It's something that Donald Trump did within his own administration that's been a complete and utter disaster. So according to Obama's Ebola czar, because remember there was an Ebola outbreak under the Obama administration. This happened in Africa, and I think that Obama and his administration did a good job containing it.
Great job.
Yes, a great job. And so his Ebola czar was interviewed by New York Magazine, and he said the following. In 2018, President Trump abolished the White House Office on Pandemic Preparedness. So there was a whole bunch of people who were supposed to be getting ready for this event, and we got rid of them.
And so I want to say one more thing about that. This is the cost of tax cuts for the rich. So they do a $1.9 trillion tax cut that goes predominantly to the top 1%. Then they turn around and go, well, we don't have money left for pandemics anymore. Oops. So now Kasich is also part of that. Kasich is part of the Republican establishment. They love tax cuts for the rich. They love tax cuts for corporations, which is what Trump did. So that's the one reason they can tolerate him. They're like, oh, he's an idiot. Here, Kasich's bar was, at least he didn't do any more conspiracy theories, and he wasn't a child throwing paper towels at people who had suffered through a hurricane. So he's like, he cleared the bar. He didn't seem challenged as he spoke that day, even though he was riddled with errors and inspired no confidence. That's the lowest bar in history. But part of the reason Kasich doesn't mind Trump overall, like the rest of the Republican Party, is because at least everybody got all their donors got the tax cuts.
Right.
But the cost of that was, oops, we're not ready for a pandemic. All these lives are lost. Well, that's not the Republican Party's problem. That's your problem. And by the way, it is the country's fault for electing Republicans. That's what they do every time. They absolutely destroy the budget. They give everything to the rich. They give everything to corporations, and then they cut. Certainly for the poor, but also for the middle class and also for healthcare. He also cut from the Center for Disease Control. Oops, oops. Now, all of us suffer because you voted for Republicans and you put this clown into office.
But it is kind of incredible how this whole situation has led to a collapse in the stock market. And so investors are upset. Investors are incredibly upset. So guess what? Out of nowhere, the Federal Reserve is able to find trillions of dollars to, pump into the markets to make investors feel better. So I bring that up because there are people right now who don't have health care. They're worried that if they get this virus, they're gonna die, or an elderly person in their family with a compromised immune system is gonna die. Is the Trump administration or the Federal Reserve, anyone in government worried about them? Because right now, it seems like the only action that's being taken immediately, without any debate, is doing what it takes to help the stock market, help the investors. And I get it, there are some people, hardworking, good people, they're not billionaires, right? Who have invested in their 401ks and they're worried about their retirement. But they're not the ones that the government is listening to. They're not the ones the Federal Reserve is concerned about. They're worried about these big time investors who are seeing a huge dip in their wealth.
I'm sure any second now, Anderson Cooper is going to ask, how are you going to pay for that? Oh, right, no one asked. Oh, all of a sudden, Wall Street needs it. $1.5 trillion literally materializes out of nowhere. The Fed goes and prints the money and gives it to them. And there's no discussion of how we're going to pay for it. There are legitimate reasons for it. We understand that, and we talk that through. But at the same time, whenever real people need to be prioritized, there's no money at all. Oh, there's a pandemic coming. Oh, there's no money. Oh, it affected the stock market. Hey, look, I found $1.5 trillion.
Well, we'll get into the details of how this is impacting the economy when we come back from the break.
At TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today. We hope you're enjoying this free clip from the Young Turks. If you want to get the whole show and more exclusive content while supporting independent media, become a member at tyt.com/join today. In the meantime, enjoy this free segment. All right, back on the Young Turks. There's so many comments here, including relevant experiences you guys are having with the COVID-19 situation. So let me do members first as usual. Change my Borg designation, writes in, Cenk, your bet with Anna is still in play. He could resign if this pandemic and stock market get really bad.
I actually thought about that today and mentioned it in the production meeting. I was like, I think for the first time I'm a little vulnerable here.
Yeah, so let's talk more about it in the postgame, because I actually have something slightly outrageous to say. Okay.
What a shocker.
TYT.com/join. Jay says this is why you don't have a failed reality TV star as your president. And Marius writes in, after hearing about how Chinese restaurants have been affected, I was really proud of my brother for deciding his birthday dinner with the family this week will be at a Chinese takeout. Because of course the Chinese restaurants in America have nothing to do with the outbreak in Wuhan, China. They have nothing to do with it at all. But people get irrational fear and the panic sets in, and now all those businesses are devastated. Juliana says, I work at a grocery store. It's been madness just keeping up with the demand. Empty shelves for toilet paper and cleaning supplies, bread plants working overtime to keep stores stocked with bread, and it's still emptying, nonstop lines, etc. So that's amazing. And then last one from YouTube Super Chat. Bob Doctor says, Cenk, stop writing Bernie's obit like you did Tuesday. If Joe/Bernie's roles were reversed, the corporate media wouldn't give up. You need to aspire. I hear you, brother. Look, I have two jobs. One is to tell you the truth, and that's first and foremost. I will never compromise that. So he's hurt, dog. There's no question about that. But it's not over. If it was over, I'd tell you. I'd tell you immediately. There is still a chance, and we'll see how all this plays out. Because of this, and we're going to talk about it in a little bit. I mean, we're really not going to have Medicare for all. And that's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So this is super relevant, and I'll give you that. Yes, I'm also progressive. Yes, I'm oftentimes an activist, and yes, I root for people. But I'm honest about that too. And my job is but first to tell you the truth, then to tell you what we can do to effectuate change. All right. Can I see, speaking of effectuating change, I know I didn't warn you guys, the thermometer, TYT.com/go. It's still so important, guys. 158-212. You guys are amazing. Please, let's keep that going. We got to get you more information, and this is how we do it. All right, Anna, what's next?
All right, well, we've spent most of this show correcting Donald Trump. Let's continue doing it. During Donald Trump's Oval Office address on coronavirus, he unfortunately shared some misinformation about what would be covered healthcare-wise if people seek to get treatment or testing for the virus. I'm going to go ahead and tell you the reality of the situation so everyone is prepared the best they can be in this broken healthcare system. So here's what Trump told the public on Wednesday during this Oval Office address. He said, earlier this week, I met with the leaders of the healthcare industry who have agreed to waive all co-payments for coronavirus treatments, extend insurance coverage to these treatments, and to prevent surprise medical billing. But that is not the case, as was explained by Politico. So apparently Trump's claim tonight that health insurers have agreed to waive all co-payments for coronavirus treatments seems to be news to them. For testing, not for treatment, according to a spokesperson for the major insurance lobby. Okay, so there will be some relief, but not the type of relief that Donald Trump claimed he accomplished on behalf of the American people. Also, a White House official echoed that statement to Jim Acosta, and he shared that information via Twitter. Trump tonight said health insurers have agreed to waive all co-payments for coronavirus treatments, extend insurance coverage to these treatments. White House official says Trump meant to echo that the vice president said yesterday that insurers have agreed to waive all co-pays on coronavirus testing specifically.
Okay, so let's talk about that because it really exposes the underlying problem of our healthcare system. So first of all, if there is not a pandemic, normally if you have a life-threatening disease, you still have to pay the copay to get tested, let alone the treatment. They're like, we're gonna waive the copay because, okay, there's a worldwide pandemic. But normally if your life's on the line, we're not gonna waive it. No, you pay.
One quick reminder though, we still have 27 million Americans who are uninsured. So the copay is what you would pay to just see your doctor to get that test, right? And it is a lowered amount because you have insurance. If you don't have insurance, that cost is actually much higher, $150 to $200 in most cases.
And as Katie Porter showed it could actually get up to $1,300. So then the second part of it is the insurance industry going out there and going, no, don't get us wrong. We're not actually here to save your lives. We'll just do the test and waive the copay. But the treatment, nah, copays, deductibles. If you got a really high deductible, we will bankrupt you. And those are only for the people who are insured. And those are only for the people who are willing to go to the doctor knowing they have a high premium or a high deductible. Because if you have a high deductible, people won't go to the doctor anyway. They won't get tested. And if they get sick and they die, insurance goes, good, I save money. No, but you have to understand something. That is their business model. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying to you. It's super obvious. They want to maximize revenue, which means charge you as much as possible for health insurance. And they want to minimize costs, which in their industry means paying out as little as possible for your treatment. So that's how they make money. So in this country, if you don't have insurance and you get coronavirus, yeah, there's an excellent chance you'll die. You'll go to the emergency room too late. It'll cost the rest of us way too much money at that point, and it might be too late and you might die. And if you do have insurance, for the folks who can't afford their deductible, which is a giant number, we will bankrupt you. We will not cover your treatment.
So I want to show you this chart from the American Medical Association because you're right, Cenk. The cost is actually much higher than even I thought it would be. And if you look at this chart, it shows you the cost of everything from the blood tests to the office visits, and it breaks it down by minutes. So if you see a doctor for 15 minutes and you are not insured, it's about $150. If you are insured, $74, okay? If you see a doctor, your doctor's visit is 40 minutes. If you're without insurance, you're gonna pay $327 on average compared to $161 if you are insured. I mean, this is a complete and utter disaster. Look at the emergency visit at the very end, high severity threat. If you don't have insurance, you're paying over $1,000. If you do have insurance, you're paying on average $443. This is madness, right?
So the rest of the developed world, if they're watching this, they just can't believe their eyes. Really, in America, if you have a life-threatening disease, they're gonna make you pay all this money, and if you don't, what happens? And I know that you can't believe it, but yes, in America, we let people die. So if you're really poor, there are things like Medi-Cal, and you can go, and Medicaid, and you can go and get treatment, but you're gonna get treatment only near the end. Yes, you can go to the emergency room, but near the end when it's oftentimes too late. And it winds up being incredibly expensive for the whole system. That's why it's less efficient. That's why in America we pay more than the rest of the developed world. And for some in the middle class who can't afford the copays, premiums, and deductibles, we don't cover them. And if they don't have the money, even if we get them the treatment, whether it's too late or not, we will take their house, we'll take their car, we will bankrupt them and we'll put them out on the street.
And I want to debunk something that was sent to me on social media. It was Politico did this story about how in Italy, their healthcare system has been overburdened by the number of coronavirus cases. And as you know, Italy does not have a healthcare system like here in the United States. It's universal, there's more government intervention. And I bring that up because the issue with Italy, and we would have the same issue here if we had a single payer system, is that Italy did not do enough to contain the virus and to quarantine people, to test people. And so the cases really shot up because the government did not do enough, right? We would have the same problem, we're likely to have the same problem here, which is why, look, it's important to slow down the spread of the virus. That's what health officials want to focus on, and Italy didn't do enough ahead of time. Go ahead.
Yeah, two more things about that. Number one, no, it's just that they're further along in the process and they've done more testing than we have. So right now, former Trump administration officials, former Obama administration officials are all warning, governors are warning, the hospitals are about to get overrun. So we have private insurance. So when our hospitals get overrun and you can't get an appointment, what's gonna be your excuse? They love to say, oh, the long lines, if you actually take care of people.
Right.
Well, we're gonna have long lines too, because a lot of people are sick or they're not sure they're sick, they need to get tested. So again, I've waited over a month to get an appointment in different times, and I have private insurance. Private insurance also has giant bureaucracy. But now, most importantly, there's one candidate left in the race who's for Medicare for all, where if you have the coronavirus, you won't have to worry about paying for testing or paying for treatment. And yes, that system costs less. Yes, it does. It does for every country who has it. Every one of them pays less than us. In fact, half of what we pay. Okay, so can I get a single reporter, if a single reporter exists in the country, to ask Trump or Biden, what do you want people to do if they can't afford treatment for the coronavirus? Because Trump had to clarify, no, the insurance companies are not going to pay your copays. They're not going to pay your deductibles. It's not going to be free. No, if you don't have the money, they will let you die or bankrupt you. So isn't it the most obvious question in the world to ask Trump, but also Biden, who's also against Medicare for all? So if someone has coronavirus and they can't afford to pay, what do you want them to do? Because this is your system. You're the one in favor of it. So tell us what you want them to do. And they should explain. The reality is, if you're not for Medicare for all, yeah, they should get bankrupt and we should take their goddamn house. Or maybe they go and die. That's their actual answer. They might not say it that way, but that is the facts of their answer.
Well, look, why don't we take a break? And when we come back, we'll talk about what Biden's answer is, because he actually did address coronavirus today. And luckily, so did Bernie Sanders. And I think it's important to juxtapose their responses so we really know what we're getting ourselves into when we vote in this Democratic primary. We'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of the Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk, and I'll see you soon.